Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Let's Eat. Let's set the scene. I love doing this. You know that. Let's set the scene a little bit. It is Easter Sunday, so good morning. Happy Easter. I don't have many plans today. My mom was celebrating with my stepfamily, and my dad is spending time with his girlfriend, both of which I could have joined, but I decided to lay low today, and I'm very excited for that because I have a lot on my plate and I needed a day to get my head on straight. I think you guys hear me say that probably at least once a week. I just need a day to get my head on straight because my head is never on straight, especially right now. There's just a lot going on and it's all good things. And I know I need to still take time to be with family and to take some time off, but we are where we are in this moment, and I foresee more time during the summer where I'll be able to kind of relax and recharge a bit, but at this moment in time, this is the day that I am going to do that, including recording this podcast because I didn't have an episode for this week. And I have lots of topics in mind. Don't worry. There's never a shortage of topics when it comes to talking about health and wellness for the podcast. But I just didn't have a chance to record. And I most certainly will not have time to record tomorrow just because simply it being Monday and I have a busy day. But also because I'm taking my first exam for my functional lab training, which will also be what I do the majority of the day today. I'm going to be cleaning because I need to be cleaning my house. And then I'm also going to be preparing for my first exam tomorrow, which I'm feeling lots of feels around it. I'm nervous, but I also feel confident in what I'll be tested on, but I just want to be as prepared as possible. So back to setting the scene. Yes, it is Easter morning. I have some lemon water with salt and I have my bone broth hot chocolate, which I've shared numerous times across social media, but also with clients of mine, how obsessed I am with Paleo Valley and their protein. And I've definitely noticed improvements in my skin and my nails and my hair as it relates to upping how much bone broth I'm drinking, having more of this bone broth protein. And then also I've been very consistent with my collagen, but all of that kind of ties together. So definitely noticed improvements in those arenas, which is wonderful. I mean, what I don't think people realize is stunted nail growth or stunted hair growth or poor skin quality, all of that is a sign. All of those are signs of something gone awry underneath the surface. When we are fueling properly, when our body's in homeostasis and our body is nourished, we will see nail growth. We will see quality skin. Our wounds will heal faster, right? Like all of these things are reflective of what's going on inside the body. Hair growth as well. So something to keep in mind if you struggle in any of these areas, that there can be deficiencies going on or they can be symptoms of something else. But I'm not going to go down that path. I have a matcha with me. I don't know if I said that already. So I have water, filtered water with lemon and salt. I have my bone broth hot chocolate and I have my collagen matcha, and we're ready to record. My screen door is open and it is a beautiful, beautiful morning. It was feeling a little stuffy in here, so I decided yesterday too, given the temperature is starting to rise and we're starting to have warmer days and I'm on the second floor, I need some airflow in here. So this is your reminder to open your windows and open your doors and let some air in and let the filtration happen, the nature's filtration, because it's so important. And I have these beautiful trees outside my house. I don't know what kind of tree it is, but they produce the most beautiful white flowers and they don't last very long. And it's just a beautiful view. They don't smell that great, I'll be honest. But they're beautiful as far as what they look like and the flowers. And so that's what I'm looking at right now. And I hear the birds and there's a slight breeze. So everything is the way it should be to record an episode of the podcast. So today we're going to be talking about Move More Month, what that means, why it's important, and how to make it happen for you. When I learned that April was Move More Month, I of course got excited because we should all be moving more. And I also recently, actually just this morning, I unboxed my walking pad. So that's going to allow me to move more. But I just think we've lost touch with this so much. And so I really want to dive into why it's important for mental and physical health, what that can look like for you, and really explore this topic a little bit further so that Move More Month can be every month for you. Outside of just April, it can be every single month where you make a conscious effort every day to move more. Now, complete transparency. Am I perfect at this all the time? Absolutely not. Do I find myself sitting at my desk for hours and hours and hours? Absolutely. So don't get me wrong. This is always a work in progress, but it's about setting that intention daily that is going to be priority, which I think is just not the case. There's no priority within it. And that's a problem. And that's contributing to a lot of the issues that we're seeing in our health across our country, across our world. So going to spend time encouraging, inspiring, motivating you to do just that, to move more as we move through April, and then hopefully this becomes more habitual for you. You have more knowledge and you're more informed about why it's important so that you can carry it with you throughout the remainder of the year and then through the rest of your life, maybe. We won't get ahead of ourselves, but that's the goal. So thank you so much for tuning in this morning. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode, and welcome back to the table and let's eat. Welcome to Let's Eat. I'm your host, Emily, certified holistic health coach, functional nutrition expert, and self-proclaimed wellness enthusiast, here to meet you at the intersection of physical and mental health, the space within which we become well. This podcast is meant to explore all areas of mind and body wellness, designed to offer you the integrative knowledge, behavioral strategies, and mindset shifts necessary to uplevel your health and feel better today. We'll explore nutrition, sleep, movement, self-care and stress management, habits and routines, self-development, gut health, mental health, and more. I am so happy that you're here. Welcome to the table. Let's eat. So, what does it mean to move more? What does that mean? Well, I think it can mean a couple different things. I think it can mean just move if you're not moving at all, right? If you're starting from, ground zero and you're working your way into establishing a relationship with movement or diving back into your relationship with movement, I think that can simply mean just start moving more, right? Like, doesn't have to be some structured, comprehensive, elaborate workout. It just means moving the body more. And then I think it can also just mean adding in more movement organically on top of what you're already doing. Now, I will preface all of this and this episode by saying I am not a proponent, I'm not a supporter, and I'm not encouraging over-exercise, because I think that in and of itself is harmful and can be stressful and detrimental to the body and even the brain, right? Well, from like a mental health perspective, I think over-exercising can be a byproduct of a disordered relationship with exercise. And I know I definitely struggled with that in my early 20s when I was running a lot and I was using it as a coping mechanism, which I think mental health and exercise, there's a ton of benefits, and even research that supports exercise can be as effective as antidepressants. So that's incredible. And that should be something we are just always recommending in mental health care. Don't get me started on that topic. But I think it can become a harmful, toxic coping mechanism, which was the case for me. I was running a lot and it broke down my body physically, where I was just running every day, long distance, as in 4 or 5 miles. So it's not like marathons, but I became obsessive with it. And I was running a lot because I was just going through a really hard time in my life. And that was what helped me cope. So I think there's a balance, as there always is. But I want to just be sure I make that known, that this is not me endorsing over-exercise. This is not me endorsing going above and beyond, throwing the body into exhaustion every single day as a means of moving more. It just means we are not moving enough. And so how can we make it more of a part of our day. Now, I think foundationally speaking, we have just lost touch with the need for us to exercise. I mean, we look at our ancestors and we look at when they were hunters and gatherers, and they depended on movement in order to survive, not just in the sense of hunters and gatherers having to harvest and hunt our food supply, but also just in the sense of safety and survival, being able to move regions when there was threats to their population, or whether it was like weather related, if they were migrating to an area that was more comfortable for them during colder months, or whatever the case is. I mean, this is a very blanket generalized reference. So over the course of time, it's looked differently, but there's nothing about our modern world that requires us to move. And that's where I really want to start, where our ancestors were. And while that way of life no longer exists, our biology is very similar to what it was then. You know, the human body has obviously evolved and we've come a long way as far as how our bodies function, but we have become so comfortable in a world that doesn't require us to move. And this is a big reason why we're sick, because we no longer need to hunt and gather our food. We no longer need to migrate. We are living in the safety of our homes. We have convenience at our fingertips. And so just with that comparison in mind, I think it does a really great job at demonstrating how far aloof we are and far away we are from the way our ancestors used to live and how our bodies thrived on that, versus where we are now, where there's just simply no longer a need for us to behave in that way because our survival isn't dependent on it. Well, I mean, you could argue our survival is kind of dependent on it, right? Because we need to move in order to be most healthful and optimally healthy. However, it's not a life or death type of thing where, I'm not going to eat if I don't go hunt for the family or for the tribe or the community or whatever. Or we have to relocate. We have to move because we're in, imminent danger or whatever the case might be. And so thinking about it through that lens, I think it gives you a different perspective on, you're right. We don't have to live that way anymore, but that doesn't mean that we still don't need to be active. We still don't need to move. And that's where the problem lies, is movement has transformed in terms of its importance. It's no longer a priority. I mean, yesterday, I was having this conversation with a customer at the restaurant, and he was saying, if I didn't have to work anymore, I would be able to exercise. And I straight up said to him, I said, that's the problem, is we have put every single thing ahead of exercise or eating well or sleeping well or whatever the case is, when in reality, what else is more important than our health in order to do all of those things? In order to work, in order to be a parent, in order to be an employee, a business owner, a whatever, right? Like fill in the blank in your respective roles. What else is more important than good health in order to be the best or to feel our best in those roles in order to live the fullest life that we can live? Because it's not fun being tired, being sick. It's certainly not, it's not the way we're meant to live when we're struggling, when we're symptomatic, when we can't run around with our grandchildren, or we can't seem to find enough energy to get through the day without having to take naps, or whatever the case might be. There's a multitude of different examples here. So I think that when it comes to exercise, it's become less of a non-negotiable. It's become a negotiable part of our day. It's a when I have time. Or it's a, when I want to lose weight, I will do this, but I don't need to be doing this as something that I do routinely. And it's also become third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, 100th place in line as far as priorities go. And it's not to say that you should be neglecting of your work, your kids, your responsibilities. That's not the case. But we do need to flip the script a little bit and look at that narrative that we've been buying into that says this isn't something that is a priority until all of these other things are done. And in reality, it's how can I make this happen so that all of those other things are better? Because that's the reality. That is the reality. Everything will be better if you make this a priority for yourself. So few things to take away there, right? And I'm going to continue to expand on them. I love these types of episodes where I can just kind of chit chat and I'm kind of just going off the cuff and just talking about it. So bear with me here, okay? But I have a lot to say, so I'm hoping I can get it all out. Movement needs to be foundational. It is foundational to our health. It's foundational to our biology. It's foundational to healthy aging. There is no doubt in my mind when it comes to how we are supposed to operate as human beings, then knowing with full conviction, if that's the right word, or full certainty that movement must be a part of our lives. And I say movement because I want to be sure that I'm not driving this concept of exercise home. I think movement is more accessible. I think movement can look so differently on each and every person. And that's what's so wonderful about it is there's no one size fits all. Now, I will happily get specific as far as what I feel is optimal for having a balanced relationship with exercise. And there's a lot of formulas out there about how much, cardiovascular training we should be doing, how much strength training we should be doing. And especially given our age group or, our gender or whatever the case might be. But movement, I feel, has this umbrella to it that allows us to define that in our own way, define that as far as what works for us, because there's nothing worse than forcing ourselves to do something that we just really hate doing. Like, oh, I thought I needed to cycle my life away, and I hate cycling. I hear this a lot with running. Like, I hate running. Don't make me run. And if someone says that to me, I'd be like, I literally was never going to make you run. It's never going to make you run. I promise. I wasn't. I think there's a number of other ways that we can get that type of activity in that doesn't require running, doesn't require that level of intensity. But I think we think, oh, well, I need to be running. I need to be doing this. And no one size fits all. And so as we move through this episode, I want that to be something that you think on as far as what would I ideally define as movement for me? What would be a form of movement that I could see myself doing no matter where you are on your journey, no matter where you are in your journey, no matter, what you've tried in the past or what you think is what you should be doing, which I think can be, that could be a dangerous space to be, like I said before about the running. But starting to really marinate in that idea of, what can I see myself doing? Because I think ultimately we want to take the path of least resistance. And if starting to get active means taking Zumba classes because you like to dance, then by all means, because down the road, we can expand on that. Down the road, we can get more specific on, all right, well, then what am I doing for muscle building? What am I doing for recovery? But that's not my concern right now. What I want you to focus on over the course of this episode is what is accessible for me right now, because that's going to be the very best option for you to start to move more. And that's the goal of this episode, is to get you inspired and get you excited. So 2 points here. We've lost touch with movement being a non-negotiable in our day. We can look back at our ancestors, the way that they operated, the way that they, that they lived their lifestyle from day to day and compare it to the way we live today. There is nothing about our lives today, I'm going to keep saying this throughout the course of the episode, that requires us to move. And I mean like literally get off the couch. Not one thing. Work from home, food delivery, Amazon, and any other convenience service, whatever the case is, fill in the blank there, that simply does not require us to stand up at all during the day. And don't get me wrong, a lot of these progressions in our society have also brought benefit. I'm not going to say that they're all wrong, they're all bad, but it is just fueling this fire of obesity and sedentary living when we are just not, number one, required to move. We've normalized it as a culture. Everyone else is doing it, so why wouldn't I do it? And also, we're not emphasizing or driving the point home enough about how dependent our health is on movement. So 3 things there. I hope I can recall them all. Everything is convenient for us in our culture nowadays. There's no denying that. Every single thing is convenient. Our culture has normalized sedentary living. So everything that's normalized for us from a cultural lens is harder for us to see alternative perspectives on. I mean, just as, like a religion, if you feel one way about, who the Bible will say, and then you abide by a different religion, there's discrepancies about the beliefs about God or how the earth was created or whatever the case is, right? And so this is just, I'm just pulling a random example here. I don't know if, I think my point is getting across, but I don't know if it's the best example, but we'll just roll with it. It's about your cultural upbringing. I've shared on this before. I grew up in a very Christian household, and I still believe in the Christianity beliefs, but it wasn't until I was in my adulthood that I started hearing more about alternate perspectives on religion, we'll say. And that's when I realized, this is a different way of thinking. I grew up always believing X, Y, Z, and until I was out of my household and I was an adult and I could see that there was other beliefs, I realized that it's not just this one narrow view. There's a multitude of views. And it's the same thing with our culture. If our culture says, American culture says that convenience is okay and this is normal, then we're gonna take it and run with it, right? But we're not gonna run because we're not moving, right? I walked right into that, okay? But I had to take advantage of the opportunity. But this goes for everything. This goes for processed foods. This goes for toxins. This goes for medications. This goes for everything, where it's so abundantly normalized in our culture that we don't question it because we say, well, it wouldn't be harmful for me or it wouldn't be promoted as much as it is. It wouldn't be normalized. Everyone else wouldn't be doing it if it was actually harmful. And I think this is where the awakening kind of happens, when you start to be a little bit more skeptical about things and you're like, wait a second, just because it says sugar-free on the front of it. I literally just had this conversation with the customer yesterday. I was so slow at the restaurant and we were talking about this, and he's not a customer that I necessarily feel like super, I don't want to say close, but like I don't know him as well as some of my other customers, but we were talking about health and wellness, and he wanted to eat something healthy at the restaurant, and we started getting into, health, and he'd been using the Yuka app, which for those of you who don't know, it's an app that you can scan barcodes or labels, and it'll tell you why it's not as healthful as it claims to be. I think these types of apps are incredible for informing and educating and putting like a quantitative value. I maybe have downloaded it, but I don't think I've ever used it. And I think that there's better quality ones because I think the Yuka app maybe has some flaws to it. And I think most will because, some I don't agree with, some I do agree with, but whatever. But it gives a quantitative value to it out of 100. And I think that alone gives people a good image of, this is a 20 and this is a 85, No one can argue with, okay, it's closer to 0, so it's less healthful, and it's closer to 100, which means it's more healthful, right? And that gives a good discrepancy and an ability to compare. But we were talking about, how he literally said, I thought we were eating pretty healthy, and then I looked at this app, and I realized, holy cow, like no way, and and very much the energy of the standard American diet and the standard American people, right? Where you think, oh well, I'm eating these packaged foods that say healthy and say this all natural, blah, 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 blah. And then you realize, oh wait, no, this is not it. But we've normalized that, right? The predominant, type of food that's in our food stores is packaged foods. I mean, everything is packaged. And we think because it's on the shelves, oh, well, it's good. And all these marketing claims that it's healthy. And so now I'm getting off on the wrong tangent, but you get what I'm saying. It's very normalized. It is normalized. It's normalized. And just because it's common doesn't make it normal, right? We need to look at these lifestyle behaviors and these foods and toxins and concepts that we have just allowed to just be and question, is this the best for my health? And that is where this movement concept comes in. We're not endorsing exercise enough. And so it's the fact that it's normalized so much that we don't have to move. Everything is made accessible to us and convenient to us that we don't need to move. So that makes it that much harder for us it's kind of like a swimming upstream here where we have to go out of our way to make it happen. And we have to opt out of the normalcy that we've created around sedentary living. And then lastly, there was a last point to it, and and it's just, that's what it was. I knew I was going to forget. We're not educated around how valuable movement is to mind, body, to our mental and our physical health. And that's a problem. I think we associate, and this is not only exercise, this is healthy eating too. We associate these two things to just, well, if I want to lose weight, I have to do X, Y, and Z, as opposed to, no, if I want to function, if I want my body to do what it's meant to do, I have to move. I have to eat real whole foods. And that's a problem. That is a problem, especially because, and this is something that I feel like I come across with clients, is when we only associate eating well in relation to I want to lose weight, I believe that attaches a very negative connotation to exercise and eating well. Think about it. If I'm unhappy in my skin, if I'm overweight, if I'm obese, if I want to lose weight, and I know that the necessary steps in order to do that include dieting and exercise, or eating well and exercise, I'm not going to have a very healthy, we'll say, association with those behaviors, because I'm not happy with where I am. If we're constantly associating being overweight, wanting to lose weight, wanting to look a certain way, our physical being, with eating better and movement, and say, for example, this is something I've dealt with since I was 15, where every time I felt insecure, I knew I got to go eat this, I got to go move. That's not something exciting. I'm not excited about that. That sucks. That's terrible, right? So you have to look at it through that lens. When we're constantly in this space where we're associating and there's a negative energy to it, and it might not even be conscious, okay? It might not be something that you recognize, but it's so true. I didn't plan to say this, but this makes a lot of sense to me, and I feel like I relate to this and it resonates, is we're not excited about it. There's a post that I keep sharing on Instagram. I saved it because it's just fun for me to share. It literally says in big letters, get excited about getting healthy. And that's the energy we need. And yet we've attached healthy eating and exercise with, this is going to be hard. This is going to suck. This is going to be boring. I'm going to have to restrict. I'm going to have to eat less. I'm going to have to move my body, which isn't comfortable. And all of these negative beliefs about it. Of course, your subconscious is going to say, no, I'm good. I do not want to do that. Right? And so you have to think about it through that lens too. It's about switching the mindset. How many times do I go back to mindset? We have to start getting excited about what we can do and what we're able to do, and being able to do it every day, and being able to nourish the body, knowing that it's not about the physical aspect. Yeah, that can be a goal. I'm not going to, say that can't be a goal, but it's about restoring health and being able to optimally function. That's so exciting. Don't get me wrong. I might be a little biased here, but how can we deny that allowing our bodies to do better, to function better, to focus better, to run better through movement and nutritional eating? Like, that is so exciting. So we have to be aware too of how, past experiences or negative experiences, especially for people who are prone to yo-yo exercising or yo-yo dieting. I've spoken on this a number of times, and how much of a mindset shift it really is. This is a commitment for the long term, and that might feel overwhelming, but this is a commitment forever. This isn't just I'm just going to exercise for 6 weeks and then I'm going to be done. This is how can I move more every day, every week, every month, every year, every rest of my life. Okay. I ran out of every year after that. I said every again, and I had every decade, we'll say. All right. There we go. Every decade, every century, right? We should be moving, and that should just be a part of who we are and what we do. But instead we put it in a box, and then we also are inundated with messaging and beliefs that this is not something that should be commonplace, that should be routine in our lives. And that's just that. It makes me upset because of the fact that we would have such a better life. Our lives would be better. The world would be better if we took into consideration the impact that movement has on our mind and our body. Now, I don't want to be inconsiderate and insensitive to the people that are maybe disabled or unable to move, right? I never want to come across as being, unaware or naive to the fact that there are individuals out there who don't have that privilege. So I am cautious and conscious of that. However, I still want to encourage each and every person to reflect on their own circumstances and determine how to make it work for them. And that's very individual. That's going to be based on every single person's circumstances, body, and where they are in this journey. So just always want to keep that in mind. But when it comes to moving more through the month of April, I want to spend some time talking about how to make this happen. Now, for me personally, I have just kind of organically stepped into a space where now I am just moving more, and there's a couple different reasons why. So first and foremost, movement is already something that I try and do every day, maybe 5-6 days a week, we'll say. And even on days that I'm not doing a structured workout, I'm still moving if I can. So that's a walk, or that's just parking far from the grocery store and walking across the parking lot, things of that capacity to just make more organic movement in the day. Then also having a golden retriever that has forced me to be active. You know what? Speaking of being active, I want to just mention there's these two women who are older and they walk in my neighborhood. They just walked by and they're constantly yapping, not in like a, oh my God, they won't stop talking, but they're chit-chatting, and it's very quiet in my neighborhood, so it's easy to hear them. But they walk literally every day. They walk every day, and it's so inspiring, especially just in general, seeing how many people are very committed to walking in my neighborhood, because there are a lot of regular walkers. And I see them every day, or they're running every day, or what. It's like, so I love that. I remember when I first came to see my home, which at the time I didn't know it was going to be my home, and it was May 2 years ago, and it was a Saturday afternoon. Me and Lou came, and there were so many people walking, and I was like, oh my God, I love this. Like, I love this energy, and I feel like that's the same way down the shore. Anytime I'm down the shore in the summer, whether it's, at the beach or just near a boardwalk or whatever the case might be, people are so active. And I'm like, I love this energy. Give me this energy all day long. Especially I love running at the beach. I mean, Lou and I, her whole life, we would take trips down the shore and I'd run with her. I mean, just 2 years ago, we went down, it was the Friday of Memorial Day weekend, and we went down to Belmar, and it was already like super hot early in the morning. So I had to consider that for her, because obviously she can only handle so much. But we ran to their dog beach, and she had the best time. That memory is like forever in my heart. That was so much fun. We ran, we went to the dog beach, she got to swim, she had so much fun. Oh my God, if there's any dog that likes to swim, no dog liked to swim more than Lou. Loved to swim, like literally loved it. And then we ran back to the car and we went home, and it was the best. And I have so many memories of doing that with her, and it's so much fun. So I'm really excited I need to get a name for this dog, because I keep referring to her as the puppy, or I got to get a name so I can start referring to her as said name. But I'm hopeful that she'll be able to do that with me, and I'll go into training her with that in mind, knowing that, like, okay, I want to be able to run with her and have that kind of similar experience that I did with Lou. So her training will then reflect accordingly, because I want to get her used to that early. But yeah, so having Lou and having her, especially now living where I live, it required me to take her out and to walk her and to, on a leash and whatnot, as opposed to living elsewhere at my dad's or whatever the case. It was something like I could just open the door and she could just go out. But even then, I'd take her places, a couple parks in the area. We'd go to this trail that runs behind the house that I grew up in, and she'd run, swim in the stream alongside the trail, and I would run, and, she'd come up and check in with me, and then she'd go back. She was just really good, really, really good. So definitely encourages movement. Now, is this me encouraging you to go get a dog? Maybe. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, for sure, if that's something you want to do, because that will definitely, I think we should all have dogs. That's my personal opinion. But it certainly gets you to move more. So it's just not fun for me. I mean, going for walks is just not as fun for me when she hasn't been here. It's just, like I said, I just got my walking pad out, which now that the weather's as nice as it has been in this week, it looks like it's going to be really nice. I feel like I have to get outside. But this is great for the morning when the sun's still down, or, if it's raining out or whatever the case is, I can still get movement and still get steps in. So get a dog is your other option. But then also teaching Pilates now and teaching the classes that I'm teaching. I mean, I've shared a little bit about it. I probably take 60% of the class with my class. I try and find a good balance with it. I'd like to take more, but I have to be considerate of, being able to teach while I'm doing it. So that's kind of the work in progress, so that I'm not burning myself out or exhausting myself and I can't keep up with teaching. But I do try to take the class with my class because it's my own workout too. I like to be able to work out with my class, and I like to work out and I feel good when I do it. So those are a few ways that I have just already added in more movement, but even just adding in 5 more minutes onto the workout, doing an extra couple reps, taking an extra couple steps in your walk, or going that extra quarter mile, or taking the steps instead of the elevator, doing an extra loop around your neighborhood. Whatever the case is, it's simply move more month. It's not run an extra 10 miles month. It's not a, go up in weight with your bicep curls month. It's just move more. Just move more. And that is going to look so differently on every single person. And there's also going to be different phases of life. I know for me, moving into the warmer months, I'm going to be moving a heck of a lot more, especially having this new puppy coming into my life, versus in the winter where I'm a little bit more, in hibernating mode. I'm still exercising, I'm still going to my workouts, but the sun's not up as long. We're not outside as much. So, just being down the shore, we're doing more. We're swimming, we're walking, being outside. I mean, there's just, it's more conducive to moving more, I'll say. I don't want to use that as an excuse to say I shouldn't be moving as much during the winter, but circumstantially, it's just different. Even like I think about in January, I was literally walking like 5 or 6 miles every morning. I took my client calls on walks. I was listening to podcasts. It was amazing. It was so beautiful. And I had the time to do it because I was on vacation. And, that was wonderful. That was January. That's not going to happen in New Jersey in January. I'm certainly not going to be walking 6 miles outside in January in New Jersey. But in Florida, I could do that. So it's all about your circumstances, where you are, what works, what doesn't work. But I know for me, it's just about making it the priority, making it the non-negotiable in the day, that this is just almost not a choice, as you would feel about maybe taking a shower or brushing your teeth or having something to eat. It has to be something that you choose to do, and it's not always going to be the easiest decision. And that's a hard pill to swallow. Nothing worth having comes easy. And it's not to say that it should be something that you dread doing or something that doesn't feel good in your body, right? That sometimes takes time. It takes finding a form of exercise that feels good to you. It takes learning more about what works, what doesn't work, honoring where you are. I'm not a proponent for injury, or I don't think anyone's a proponent for injury, but I'm not, like I said before, I'm not a proponent for over-exercise or forcing yourself to do a certain form of exercise because you think you have to do it. I'm not a believer in that. I think exercise is meant to be enjoyed. Exercise is something that's meant to be something that fuels us, that, energizes us, that makes us feel good. And then also supports health and supports optimal functioning. And that kind of ties this all together. This is what I said at the beginning. Exercise and movement are I didn't know what word. I wanted to say key, and I want to say critical. Key and critical players in our health, in our body's ability to create energy, in our, blood sugar health, in our gut health, in our hormone health. I mean, for detox, there's so many benefits. There's not one area of the body that's not impacted. I mean, brain health, it literally creates more of what we call miracle grow for the brain, called BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factor. And when we exercise, that is induced, or that is produced, and it's called miracle grow for the brain. So, what else do you need to feel motivated or feel inspired to move more. It's so much more than just the way you look. It is so much more. And if you take anything away from this episode, I want it to be that movement keeps the body moving. It keeps the wheels turning. It's so incredibly nourishing for the body, especially when you do it consistently. And I can say, and this is no dramatics at all. I can be a little dramatic at times. All right, we get it. I know. But no dramatics at all. Exercise has changed my life. Top three wellness practices that have completely changed who I am and my life. No argument there. Everything about my life is significantly better when I am moving my body. I am in the best shape that I've been in, I would say, physically, especially because I've been prioritizing muscle mass and building strength. And then also obviously being that I've been doing Pilates as consistently as I have been, that my body has just changed and it's where I want it to be from like a physical strength perspective. And obviously I still have goals, but that's something I'm very proud of. But it has transformed my mental and my physical health more than, so many other things have. And I am certain that this will be the same for you once you find a rhythm with your relationship with movement. I don't think I mentioned this, but I actually founded a nonprofit in 2019 called Move for Mind. I was the co-founder alongside my co-founder, Taylor. And I think I may have mentioned this at one point. I don't know how much I went into it, but basically I had wanted to organize a 5K about mental health awareness because I, in the past, have done 5Ks that centered on missions or organizations or awareness raising, whatever you want to call it, topics that I was interested in that I wanted to be more outspoken about, awareness around. And this was in my running years, by the way. I probably won't run a 5K for the rest of my life. No, I'm kidding. I probably will. But I don't do them as often as I did. And I posted on Facebook asking if anyone wanted to do that with me. And he ended up messaging me. We connected. He suggested we just create a 5K. Create a nonprofit instead based on like logistics. I guess it appeared easier. And we did it. And we spent a lot of time working on it and branding it and formulating it and going through all the motions with it. I ended up taking a back seat to it because I had so much going on otherwise. And then Taylor ended up taking over. And I don't really know if it exists or what. I'm certain that it exists, but I don't know what exactly is going on with it now. But yeah, it's something that was exciting at the time. And it was all about how movement impacts our mental health and how valuable it is for our mental health. And so that's something I always forget to mention, but I did spend some time in that arena, really trying to bring that message to more people because of how much of an impact it's had on my mental health and how much better I feel when I move. How much better everything about my day, my week, everything is better when I'm moving more regularly. And that is why I wanted to record this episode, because of how strongly I feel about this and how passionate I am about it, but also to really shed light on why we're not doing it and take advantage of the fact that April is Move More Month and starting to encourage you to take consideration of this in your own life and what you do and what you don't do and where you need to make improvements. And I say that with love, but I do say where you need to make improvements, not where you can or where you might. It's where you need to, because it's so important for our health. It's so important. Something else I think is really fascinating that I want to leave you with as well is, I should probably find the exact article, but I know recently there was research that came out. I heard this on Andrew Huberman's podcast, and he said that moving for, say, isolated workout, like 45 minutes in the morning, and then sitting the rest of the day is actually inferior to making movement organic throughout the day. So instead of just having that 45-minute workout and then sitting all day, it's taking a half-hour walk at lunch, or standing every hour, or getting on your walking pad and taking a meeting from there, or taking an after-dinner walk, or getting home and doing 10 push-ups, or whatever the case might be. So it's about having movement more organic throughout the day versus I'm just going to move for this one moment and then the rest of the day just sit. They also say sitting is the new smoking. I think that's a little dramatic. However, I know that there's research that supports that. And I do believe that our sedentary lifestyle and our sedentary culture is causing a lot of issues. And this is what I said since the start. So my suggestion for you when it comes to moving more, that's going to look differently for everyone. But what I would focus on is first evaluating where you are when it comes to movement. Have you exercised in the past week, in the past month, in the past year? Be honest with yourself, give yourself grace, and give yourself patience. Okay, we can't beat ourselves up for what has happened. All we can do is think, okay, how can I improve moving forward? And maybe this is the sign that you needed to do that. So consider that. Consider what types of movement you enjoy. Now, this was the assignment I gave you at the beginning of the episode. Consider what type of movement works for me. Is it walking? Walking is such an underrated activity. Okay, I used to think walking was not for me. Okay, I used to be so above it. I'd be like, walking? Who? No, thank you. I don't want to walk. Let me run. Let me get my heart rate up. I want to sweat. Walking is not for me. Then I learned, wow, I actually love walking. I love it. I love to walk. I love to walk. I said that twice, but I had nothing else to say. I love to walk. That's it. End of sentence, period. So that is something I'm so grateful to have rediscovered because, especially with Lou, that was always so much fun. But, I've rediscovered that. I can't even say I've rediscovered because I never discovered it in the first place. I was so against it. Okay, full transparency. I have transitioned. I've evolved. I've grown up in my appreciation for walking, and I love to walk. Okay. What was my next point? Okay, so finding the form of movement that you enjoy that works for you, or being willing to step outside of your comfort zone. Go try a new class. Come sweat with me at Pilates. Please come work out with me. If you're in the Pennsylvania, New Jersey area, come work out with me. It's Pilates Sculpt, so it's a little bit different than classical Pilates. We're not hanging out on our mat the whole time. We're getting our heart rates up and we're moving and squatting and lunging and doing all the things, but it's a workout. So come sweat with me. But anyways, find a form of movement that works for you, or try something new if you haven't tried something, or just start where you are. All right. If I'm right now, okay, I'm consistently getting to the gym 3 times a week and I'm happy with this, do that. But maybe in a couple weeks you say, I'm going to add 5 minutes more onto my workout, or on a 4th day during that week, I'm going to take a walk outside because this is me moving more. Okay. So you need to evaluate where you are, determine how you might be able to move differently or add in more movement, and then start doing that consistently. So figuring out ways to add in more movement, make it a priority, get creative with it, and remember that you are working against a culture that tells us we should be sitting and we should be not moving. And of course, without getting too conspiracy theory on you, without becoming too much of a skeptic here, this is beneficial to our food industry. This is beneficial to our pharmaceutical industry. When we are not moving, this is beneficial to them. This is money making for them. So it's not about fighting against the man or whatever they say, right? But it's more just about, okay, yeah, the way we live our lives in America is not with our best interests of health in mind. So how can I look at my own lifestyle and determine how I can make this happen? And I get it. It's hard, especially when you work a 9 to 5 or you have weird work hours and, you have kids and there's a lot going on. So I don't want to come across as being naive to that. And I completely understand that. But still, how can I still make this happen so that it's just an organic, non-stressful part of my day? And it's not, I've just sat from 9 to 5 and now I'm eating dinner, sitting, and then I'm going to sit on the couch and then go to bed and lay down and be laying down again and not moving at all. It's about moving more, and that's going to look differently for every single person. Okay, so thank you for being here. Like I said, this episode was without an agenda, without a direction. I kind of just decided to hit record and let it all out because I feel so strongly about this, and I thought no better time than Move More Month to talk about movement and its importance. And I hope that you consider it. I hope that you reflect on your own lifestyle and what you've been doing or what you've not been doing, and then determine how you can proceed a little bit better, because there's really no other way of putting it. Our lives depend on it. Our lives and our health and our livelihood depend on this behavior. We have to be moving more regularly. And I can guarantee you, your life will improve exponentially if you start to move more regularly. Like, I would put all of my money on it, honestly. So that's saying a lot. Okay, that's saying a lot that I'm willing to put up all the money in my life on this idea that moving more will improve your life. There's no doubt in my mind. And I don't know about you, but I imagine if you listen to this episode or you listen to the podcast, you are looking to improve your life in different ways. And so go ahead and do that. I'm giving you the opportunity, the encouragement, the inspiration to go improve your life through movement, because I'm certain that it will absolutely improve. There's no doubt in my mind. It has changed my life, like I said, and it will also change yours. So thank you again for being here. I hope this brought you energy and motivation and excitement. I'm going to go hop on my walking pad now and get some steps in, although it is a beautiful morning, so I probably should go outside and walk. But either way, I'm going to go move more, because that is the moral of the story here. And I hope you do too. So thank you again for being here. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. And until next time, be well.